What if I told you your next high-stakes tech project would succeed? On time, on budget, delivering what was promised, and leaving your reputation stronger than before. Welcome to Digital Wisdom, the podcast series for people who lead complex digital transformations and want to get it right. I'm Richard White, trusted resource to billion-dollar businesses, helping untangle the chaos of systems, data and delivery, and turning it into clarity, momentum and results. If you're navigating an acquisition, aligning complex systems, or trying to bring order to a fragmented digital landscape, you're in the right place. Many get it done, few get it right. This is Digital Wisdom. Welcome to Digital Wisdom. Some of you will know from watching the series so far that some of the people that we like to speak to have been leaders within the tech world. But this time we're flipping that on its head a little bit. Jason Godard is joining us from CBRE. Jason is responsible for a global company, $300 million or pound operations across 51 countries. Jason is going to talk to us today and join us to talk about how technology is and isn't serving the real estate and facilities management industry. So Jason, welcome to Digital Wisdom.
Thank you very much, Richard. Good to be here.
So Jason, let's talk a bit about your career then. So you've obviously got quite a high profile job at the moment. How did that evolve over the years?
Yeah, not through choice. So you always have this conversation, I think, with school leavers and how you create your career or choose your career. I wanted to be a mechanic when I left school. So I went and studied that, started doing night guarding as a security guard to have some money in my pocket. And I think at the time I probably ended up being one of the people with the most money in college in my pocket and a nice car, right? Because I was doing nights, doing security. Made a decision of let me give that a go and see if I could turn that into a career. Very long story short, by the age of 21, I was a branch manager for Rentokil Security Services as it was. And that's really how I got into the FM industry initially, as a supplier to the company that I then went to work for.
Okay. So you were supplying into CBRE?
Yeah, manned guarding services. So security services, electronic guarding, manned guarding into facilities management for Johnson Controls. And, that facilities management has broadened its horizons over the years. So very much, the business that we operate these days is corporate real estate. So the leasing element of buildings, the building of buildings. So finding the space, the actual physical construction sometimes if it's an owned building for our clients, and then the operational delivery. So sort of real estate project management and then facilities management. But back in 2002 when I started, I was very much running a facilities management business. So if you think of the core services of kind of cleaning, security, catering, and the maintenance of equipment within buildings, HVAC, low voltage, high voltage, etc. But that business has grown over the years. CBRE procured Johnson Controls facilities and real estate business back in 2015. So I've got, 20 something years continuous service, but that's been with two companies through acquisition, Johnson Controls and then CBRE.
I assume CBRE grows by having many acquisitions as well.
I think, we acquire companies on a pretty regular basis. Those acquisitions usually are additive to our customers. So they're, a business that improves the core business that we have and gets into more areas. Sustainability companies, technology companies that have the ability to manage elements of our business, project management business. We acquired 100% of Turner & Townsend just over a year ago, which is one of the world's largest project management companies. We're in data center management, data center production. So it's all around that real estate piece. But yes, it is growth through acquisition as well.
Because this is why I thought it would be fascinating as well for us to have a chat. Because when you first started, so back in 2002, up until, say, for example, when you was acquired by CBRE and then on from there, how have you seen the industry change in terms of tech and how it served the industry?
I think technology in the way that we apply it to facilities management and real estate hasn't moved a tremendous amount during that period of time, if I'm honest. If you think of the way that technology is applied to our business, it's generally through kind of data mining and making sure that abstractions and that we understand what's in a lease and making sure that the legal requirements are covered. So I think as AI has become a driver, that's creating a lot of that first fix, for want of a better term. Project management is very much around, are things on time, on cost, etc. So I think the technology has grown around that space. And then in the facilities management, it's all around sort of if you think of it from an uptime perspective, and making sure that critical spaces are managed, maintained and operated within the requirements, but also understanding where our challenges are across the portfolio. But I think technology generally hasn't moved on tremendously, but I think we are seeing AI application now to that technology is having a huge improvement in the way that we spend our days, less focused in having to do the mundane things, and it's starting to get to the stage now where it's given us the outputs, which I think give us more time to be much more strategic and focused on what our end users and our clients are looking from us. And ultimately, the technology is there, the data is there to be able to make decisions that are data driven. So if you think of a large corporate looking for a new head office in a city, why does somebody choose that building? Why does somebody choose that city? Why do they choose that part of the city? It's based on data, right? It's based on where are their staff pool coming from?
Yeah.
Where is the caliber of people coming from? Who is it they're trying to tempt them from? Because they're probably working from somebody else currently. And therefore, where do they need their building to be able to answer all of that criteria? That's a big piece of data that we're able to churn through technology to be able to give a heat map of, we think it should be this postcode, or we think it should be that postcode, and we think it should be this level of building, and these are the amenities that you need in that building to entice people, for want of a better term, or keep them in the business once they're in the business.
And do you feel like that is an area that has been developed over the course of the years that is starting to help you?
I think it's developed. I think what we've ended up as an industry is lots of data and not necessarily the use of that data to be able to give outputs.
Okay.
And I think as we going through the AI age now, it's becoming much easier to take that data and mine it from the point of view of what is helping us make a decision that has got thought and process behind it, rather than what I think we've done for a number of years is we've had the technology, we've had the data collation, we haven't necessarily had the outputs in the right way that give us that decision-making criteria.
Is it surprised you that there hasn't been huge advancements in technology?
Yeah, I guess so. And I think, if you talk to anybody in the industry, I think, we'd all say that there have been improvements and things have moved forward. But I think if you look at the way that we consume data in our everyday lives, it's very different from the way that we consume data in industrial sense, in a business sense. I've not seen the leaps and bounds that I think, if I think of how I consumed TV not that long ago, did I really understand that YouTube was probably the way I was going to get my media? No, that's happened very quickly. I think you can think about it for lots of technology, right?
Yeah.
There's been advancements every year, but has it really been a huge game changer until you've had something like Amazon, which has changed the way we all shop, right? Because we shop instantly and we get things delivered the next day. And it wasn't that long ago in the UK that Amazon didn't work that way, right? So I think that advancement is starting to be applied to corporate real estate now. And I think that speed is starting to catch up. But to answer your question, I don't think it's moved as quickly as we'd like it to, and therefore I don't think there's been the mass advancements in all of that data coming together that there can be now with AI.
What do you think that looks like? What sort of things would it be doing to make your life just so much easier?
And it's pulling that data to give you a direction. So portfolio planning is a big part of what we do for our clients, right? So, a Microsoft or a Bank of America or, some of these big names, what we're finding, I think, now is that a lot of these industries are crossing over from a talent pool perspective, because the talent now tends to sit in a technology base, in IT, right? You've still got to have specialists, you've got to have, chemists and people who are qualified in life sciences, you've got to have bankers who understand what they're doing in finance. You've got to have, code writers in IT, etc. But a lot of what's going on in between that, the talent in between, is I want to go work for Microsoft today because their restaurant is better, or their location is better, or the building's better, or whatever. So I think being able to forecast a little bit more what the competition is doing, and I don't mean the competition from a CBRE perspective, I just mean general business competition.
Yeah.
I think that is something that would be hugely helpful from a vision perspective. And when trends are starting to change, and if you think of the microeconomic sort of climate, we've seen Eastern European countries in Europe that have been the back office for many companies. We've now seen that moving to India, and now it's moving to different parts of India. It's cost-based, right? But if you set your stall out 10 years ago on a 5 to 10 year plan, you'd have got it wrong part of the way through that, because all your costs would have gone through the roof, and so you've got to be a lot quicker to change. And I think being able to have some of that vision, I think, would be really good through data and technology.
Would it look like someone actually developing a product that enables you to be able to mine that data and be able to, produce what you do and make the most out of AI? Or are yourself or CBRE investing into that in order to bring that and make the most of it, the technology, more in your company these days?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly investing in it, and I think there's a balance, right, between what do you invest in and what do you buy off the shelf.
Yeah.
Because why create Microsoft when Microsoft's already created it, right? I think that's also part of it. But it's how all those elements come together. But I mean, we're investing in it as a company. I think a lot of our competitors are investing in it as organisations as well, and I think we have done for a number of years, right? And what we're finding is the world's changing so quickly that data is different data in 2 and 3 years' time. So I think there's two sides to this coin, right? I think there's investment in companies like ourselves or ourselves investing in that technology, but I think there's also the keeping up with what the industry as a whole is using as the technology and the barometer for these sort of these visions in the future.
As you acquire new businesses, and obviously every new business comes with the technology, do you have any challenges in how you integrate the technologies? And as well as, I guess, challenges in terms of how to best utilize that technology, the data that comes along with it. How has that played out for you?
Yeah, I think there's two different ways to look at this, right? I think as a business, we're a global business operating 100 plus countries across the globe. Some of that would have been through acquisition, as we spoke about. They may have a different finance system in that country. They may have a different finance system in that country because of regulations in that country. China and parts of Asia are a great example of that. So yeah, we may have lots of platform technology which is different in different countries because of the way that we either operate and have to operate in a country, or the way that we have acquired business and that's been set up on a different system.
Yeah.
But I also think, in our business, we also have to be quite vanilla in lots of ways, because a client may already have a client set of data and tools that they want us to use, and they don't want to use our data set and tools.
Yeah.
So I think we are used to being able to operate lots of different technologies and lots of different data sets and try and bring that together. And this is why I was kind of saying that I think the future of technology in maybe not just our industry, but in many industries is kind of being a little bit vanilla, right? It's what you do with the data that comes out of it and the ability to use that data rather than I've got the newest, best technology, because you and I both know that next year somebody else has got the newest and best technology, right?
Yeah.
It kind of just keeps evolving constantly.
Right. So are you excited then about the future? Like, do you feel like the technology, the trajectory of the tech industry can align well with your industry, and are you excited about the opportunities to come, or do you still see some challenges?
No, I am excited, and I think, if I think of what we've gone through in the last, I was going to say 5 years, but it's probably the last 6 or 7 years. I'm not sure I understood Bitcoin when Bitcoin came along. I'm not sure I particularly understood AI up until very recently. I think if you look at the capabilities within a number of the advances we've had in technology in the last couple of years, it's become something that is in our everyday, and I can see the vision, right? I can see where it's going. You had this conversation with me 2-3 years ago. We were all talking AI. I didn't have a clue what we were talking about, right? I think,
Yeah.
and that's where I think now that we're starting to use it every day, and it's starting to become part of making life easier for people. Something that I didn't understand a couple of years ago, I think is now something that we all understand, those of us that are using it probably through having to use it. I think the application of that changes everything. It's now about writing the programs, making sure people have the understanding of what they're trying to pull together. But the capability is definitely there now. And I think that's exciting.
It is. He's incredibly excited. I remember being back in university. Well, when did we talk? It's over 20 years ago, and I was learning. I mean, AI was my favourite. It was my favourite subject, but you could just see it wasn't there yet. And I remember I went to a Microsoft conference. Must have been about 6-7 years ago, and they presented AI. Actually, I don't even think it was that long ago. It's probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And they presented AI, and I just thought, no, not there yet. And then all of a sudden, it just changed. And I still think, to certain degrees, it is just not there. It needs a lot of hand-holding. But the basis of it is phenomenal. And like you said, when you couple it with the amount of data that's available to you, even as it stands right now, the opportunities are incredible, but are only going to advance. So I think it is an exciting time.
Yeah, I mean, I see this now as, ChatGPT is a great example, right? You can ask it, it gives you an answer. What it's not able to give you an answer to is something that you're not able to find the data to put into it to give it. So, I think what we have as tools now is a long way forward, but if, companies now create, this is all the data I need that can then have AI applied, and that's, I guess where we play in this space, right, is what do we need? What is the data we have? What is the expected vision and outcome of that? Then it's very exciting, right?
Yeah.
Very exciting, because we can make much more informed decisions. And if you think of, some of the property decisions that are made, a property decision is probably made 4 years prior to going into the property. You then got to spend X amount of hundreds of millions of fit out, and you got to be future proof and all the rest of it. That's a huge investment, right? It's like a 10-year investment. How do you make those decisions right today that are going to be right for 10 years time?
Yeah.
With a changing workforce, with, I turned 50 this year. I'm now a dinosaur. So, there's a whole generation that's coming up through, right? So how do you stay relevant?
Yeah.
I think that's where technology has a huge part to play.
Yeah, that's right.
Really does.
And so I don't want to put you on the spot with this question, but I ask you of all the guests just to see if there's something.
But yeah,
something. But so we have this. 5% of every invoice we generate, we put towards a Digital Wisdom Initiative Fund, which is just there to help. Either it's spreading the word about digital wisdom, or doing anything to help industries be able to make the most of technology, or to embed the principles that we advocate for, or even just to help people, planet, anything in that kind of realm. So I often ask my guests, is there any kind of projects that you feel we could either jointly invest in, work on together, or any ideas that you think we could use that Digital Wisdom Initiative Fund on?
I think they're getting people to understand the capabilities of AI and what it can actually do outside of ChatGPT and all the fun stuff that we can create pictures of ourselves and, all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that the education of the application is something that I think, as a 50-year-old male who's worked pretty much around the globe now, that to me is something that I think could then start to kind of create momentum. I think the generation gap's closing because I think we're all kind of learning this together, right? As you get older, you maybe not as quick to learn. But I think we're all on that journey together because we're having to use it.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And it's been absolutely fascinating talking with you today, Jason. I really appreciate you joining. Like I said at the start, it's up until now, we've spoken to other people within the tech industry about their views of the tech industry. But it's been amazing to have, a global leader such as yourself come on here and give the perspective of being a leader in the industry and how technology has evolved for you over the time, but equally where you would like to see it go. It'll be interesting to see how the tech does evolve within your industry and does start to help you more.
Yeah, agreed. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it as well, so thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you, Jason. If your last tech project run late, missed the mark, or left you cleaning up the mess, let's change that. Apply for a free consultation where we'll lift the weight, strip out the guesswork, and show you how to lead with confidence again. Head over to 365inhouse.com/unlock digital wisdom to apply. Many get it done, few get it right. This is digital wisdom.